Hi, so I'm going to talk briefly about my philosophy of classroom management. Um, so I believe the purpose of classroom management is to create an environment that fosters positive learning. So I'm a big proponent, and I'll talk about this throughout this video, of creating an environment for students that is very positive, that makes them relax and feel comfortable, comfortable interacting with each other, comfortable interacting with me, that creating this environment that is kind of fail-safe will really help prevent a lot of challenging behaviors that may accumulate throughout the school year. So I heard the phrase that the teacher's kind of like a weatherman, that they control the climate. And I think in a lot of ways that's in a classroom that's very true, is that the teacher is in control of the overall climate, the overall atmosphere of their own classroom. And we as teachers need to be really conscious of this and make sure that we're fostering a positive learning experience, because that's when learning really takes place. That's when learning is at its best. Another thing about classroom management is that I think it's important to recognize that every classroom and every group of students is very unique and different, that they're going to have different likes and different interests and different personalities, and that as a teacher I have to adjust my management style to that class. But I don't mean that from class to class, 6, 7 periods a day, I'm completely changing up my philosophy. My overarching goal should still be to implement ways to create this positive environment. That's what I'm always striving for, regardless of the personality of the class. But the ways that I go about that will probably change from class to class, from year to year, because every class is so different. So that's a hard thing to do, but that's what I want to strive to do as a teacher, is to be able to change the ways I do this, but always striving for a positive atmosphere for my classroom. So my classroom approach follows the theories of Dr. Ham Ginat. I really liked a lot of the theories he had. We learned about him early in the year, and one of his sayings that I really liked was that to be permissive with the feelings of your students, but to be strict with undesirable behaviors. So if a student comes in my classroom and they're upset, and they say they're upset, they're mad, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do that, they're showing emotions and feelings. That's okay to do, and we need to recognize that as teachers, not shut those down. But it's when those emotions become unwanted behaviors, that's when I need to be strict as a teacher and draw the line. So, and I also think this helps build trust, with students, that in my classroom you can be yourself. You can have a bad day. I'm going to have bad days. I'm going to try my best to not show that, but you can be yourself in my classroom. You can be happy, you can be upset. That's going to happen. But once that becomes an undesirable behavior, that's whenever you've crossed the line, and I, as the teacher, have to put an end to that there. So this all comes back to this positive environment and keeping the class atmosphere working in a positive way. Ginat was a big proponent of the teacher is in charge of the climate, the teacher leads the class, the teacher is, it's all in my control in this case. So that's what I really believe in with my approach. And I'm also a big proponent of the power of praise. I think teachers hold a lot of power, and they can really help kids that are struggling. And if you recognize a student's having a bad day, to be able to pick up on that and shoot them a compliment, or recognize them in front of their peers or in private, whatever approach you feel is appropriate. Or recognize the class for their good week. They had a good week behaving. Then I need to recognize that. I need to reward them and help build those intrinsic rewards. So my teaching style is very authoritative. I believe that the teacher's in charge, like I've talked about. The teacher needs to be in charge of their own classroom, but they also need to foster independence with their students. Students need to learn how to be independent, how how to start doing tasks and things on their own. They need to be given that responsibility. They need to be held to a high standard. Um, but I have to also have my limits and know when to step in and help a student out further when they need it. I need to know when to back off a little bit to help foster that independence. I think this creates an open dialogue between students and teachers that really just contributes to that healthy atmosphere that students are going to learn in. And like I said, I think students need to feel comfortable. They need to feel like it's okay to get a question wrong. I'm not going to shame them. They shouldn't feel embarrassed. I want my students to feel comfortable interrupting me in a lecture if they have a question that is relevant to the lecture. Next, the nature of students. I may have a little unorthodox opinion about the nature of students. I don't believe students are inherently bad. I don't believe students are inherently good. I strongly believe that we're products of our environment, and that's a very complicated process, but basically all of us are responding to the situation that we're presented. So a good kid doesn't mean he's always good. A bad kid doesn't mean he's always bad. We have bad days, we have good days. We're products of our environment and we're responding to that situation. Unfortunately, some of our students are going to be coming from backgrounds that are less unfortunate, and that may lead them to behaviors that make them appear as bad kids, but they're not bad. They've just had bad luck or bad situations, and I need to be that positive voice in their corner. Next, classroom procedures and rules. I'm a strong proponent of only having a very few rules, possibly 3 or 4 at the very most, and hitting those on day one and really grilling those in my students and elaborating on why I'm implementing these rules. But I'm also a proponent of having students write their own rules. In the beginning, I'll probably just have them write one rule. So maybe after the first week or two, I'll let the students do that as a classroom together. I think this builds class support. It helps them take ownership over their own rules and helps them feel a part of the learning process. That way it's not just me telling them what they can or can't do. All of a sudden they become involved. And then procedures, I think these need to be repeated often and early. So whether it's the simple things on how to conduct a class discussion or how to do research or how to line up to go to the bathroom, procedures need to be repeated over and over and over so that they become second nature, so that when they know that when they're in my classroom, this is how I behave when we do whatever it is we're doing. Last, discipline. First of all, preventive measures I think are clearly the most important thing that we can do as teachers to manage our classroom. And simply put, I think effective teaching is the best preventive measure. I think using the UDL and differentiation principles and keeping your students engaged is a great preventive measure. It's going to keep your students from getting bored or not challenged. And that's another thing. I think it's good for teachers to, it's better to overplan for a lesson than to underplan. So if you're keeping your students engaged and involved for the entire class period from bell to bell, then that can prevent challenging behaviors from ever occurring in the first place. Supportive measures I think are very important when preventive measures are not enough for challenging behaviors or whatever may be going on in your classroom. So I think parent support is a big thing I would do. I would reach out to the parent, see if we can figure out a way to help their child behave differently in my classroom, or even bring them into my classroom. I want an open door policy with the parents of my students, especially as a special education teacher. I would love to have my students' parents come in and observe or help me out or help out the students, whatever they want to do. So I think that's a good supportive measure we can take that's less drastic. And then finally, corrective measures. Unfortunately, we all have to be prepared for these, and I think it's important to have a system to go by so that I'm not reacting in the moment. So I imagine myself with a chart that has corrective measures that go kind of on a stepladder phase that can be posted so the students can see it, so they always know what consequences are going to go with this behavior. And they would start out very small with reminders, one-on-one talks, and then gradually increase to removing the student from my class and being sent to the office, which, like I said, I would save for the last, because I don't want my students to be removed from my classroom. It just teaches them that If they behave badly enough, then they get to leave the situation, and that's not a good lesson to learn. Although I do realize that that is necessary on some instances. So that's pretty much it. That's my philosophy on my classroom, and I was trying to figure out a way to end my video, so I figured why not leave you with a quote from Plato. So why not? One of my favorite quotes is, be kind to all those that you meet, for they're fighting a tough battle. So it kind of goes into my my theory on the atmosphere of the classroom and being positive. So all right, have a good day. Hope you enjoyed, and see you later.